Hey, there we are. Hey, it's Dominic D'Angelo. It's Rumor and Innuendo. It is a Monday. I'm of adfreeshows.com, SEScoops.com, and Brass Ring Media. As usual, for today, I am here with Mr. Robert Karpelis, WD Creative underscore ish. Robert, we had a big backlash PLE this past weekend, but we also had a lot of sad news going on.
Yeah, I think we'll start with Sabu. The way
Mhm.
that I found out that Sabu passed, Dom, you actually texted the group that you had heard the news. I think before it was sort of widely public. Obviously, given that you host a show with Rob Van Dam, I would imagine it must have been very difficult. Some of the conversations you've probably had or texts that you've had with RVD.
Yeah, so I got word through group message about the report, and then I looked online, and sure enough, there was the PW Insider report. And yeah, I reached out to Rob, I reached out to Fonzie, and sent them my condolences and everything. Rob reacted back, and I spoke with Fonzie on the phone. Uh, yeah, it's obviously a rough thing. Like nobody expected it. 60 years old. As far as I know, there is no news about what exactly happened, but it's tough. Sabu, everybody has an impression of, obviously the gimmick and everything like that, but he was very much a really genuine and generous person to a fault in a lot of ways, and great sense of humor. Guarded very much at first, but once he got to know you, you felt like he really cared about you and appreciated you. And I got that from the little that I knew him as well. My brief interactions with him. So it's definitely a very sad thing. Obviously, he had the big match at WrestleMania weekend, GCW, and very memorable there. And so it was nice to see him there and interact with him there. But such a sad thing. And Robert, I mean, before was a big wrestling fan, when I was really into it, I missed the Sabu boat basically. So me getting later in and just learning about how big of an influence he was on the industry later on, I really appreciate that aspect of him, and it is a shame, and he's underappreciated but appreciated at the same time. I think, and I think he fits in any pro wrestling Hall of Fame, and I really think he should be in every one.
Agreed. Wrestling Old Head has a comment here who said one could say he was the true innovator of violence. No disrespect to Tommy Dreamer, but Sabu was a guy who, as an ECW fan growing up, watching it, there was a mystique, there was an aura around him, especially when it came to that feud with him and Taz. It was one of the marquee cornerstones of ECW. It was Raven and Dreamer, and it was Sabu and Taz. And I was talking about this with Scott Chaplin. It's one of those things where I get frustrated with a Tony Khan where you have all these great talents and you don't create an aura and a mystique around them.
Hmm.
Sabu always had a mystique and an aura around him. So when he was going to wrestle, it was something you were going to go out of your way to watch. And him and Rob together was an incredible duo. And yes, Sabu would have the barbed wire matches and he would do that, but the guy could go in the ring. You could put him in there and you were going to get a great wrestling match. One of the I never thought I would agree with Sammy Guevara. So you can mark your calendar on this, but like one of the seminal moments I have with Sabu was him putting John Cena through a table. And
Yeah.
it's one of those things that just doesn't compute in your brain that the ECW guy who didn't fit the corporate mold, he had a tryout with WWF, obviously didn't wind up going someplace. But for him to be in there with the tippy top guy in WWE, I always loved. I love the fact that Vince loved Sabu,
Yeah. Yeah.
loved the gimmick, loved his aura. It's a guy who, yeah, probably was ahead of his time in terms of getting a fair shake and an opportunity in a major company, but he did get that run in WWE. He did have some big matches on a large stage. Obviously, the match he had with Rey Mysterio, One Night Stand,
Yeah.
is one of those that comes to mind. My small Sabu story was, and it's funny that it's come up a lot in the last couple weeks. But the ECW house show that we did,
Hmm.
Paul wanted me to go and interview guys. So I walk in to the locker room. Obviously, he doesn't know who I am. He comes up, full gimmick, yelling, screaming, barely speaking English, and then Paul's like, "No, it's cool. He's fine." And then without missing a beat, Sabu goes from just wild man to, "Hey, can I get you a grape?" Pulls out a Tupperware thing full of grapes and offers me a grape. Strangest, like on a dime.
Yeah.
Full on, I'm gonna stab you with this railroad spike. How dare you come in here? I'm protecting the business too. Can I offer you a grape? Uh, that was how I got like the whole Sabu experience in about a minute.
Man, yeah. My first interaction with him was literally on the podcast. So, like, when he was a guest, like, over a year ago for the first time, I was like, "Oh, if Sabu comes into StreamYard before Rob does, and I'm in there, I'm like, I got to think of what to talk to him about, or anything like that." I'm like, "And what do I call him? Do I call him Sabu? Do I? I don't want to like." I was like, "I'm gonna call him Sabu. I'm gonna call him Sabu," and I like tried to ingrain that in my head. I was like, "Do not call him by his real name. Do not call him by his real name." And sure enough, there he is. And I'm like thinking in my head, and I'm like, "Hey, what's up, Terry?" And he's like, "Sabu," and I'm like, "No."
Yes, and I get that. By the way, the rule of thumb, guys, whenever if you're ever interacting with the wrestlers, however they introduce themselves is how you generally refer to them. That's always just a good little thing. I know I was messaging with Lance Storm about it yesterday. I know this hit Lance pretty hard, and I think for some guys they just Sabu was a dude who put his body through so much,
Hmm.
but you kind of thought of him like Keith Richards, where it's like
Yeah.
this guy is just somehow going to be around forever. And the fact that he just retired
Hmm.
is what makes this obviously very, very sad. But it's great, the outpouring of support for Sabu's family, the memories, the love. The New York Times literally wrote an article about Sabu's passing. And that's the thing that's just that's kind of where I want to leave it on is like he meant that much to the industry that major mainstream publications are talking about his passing.
Absolutely. And Robert, I think something that I just noticed when when he was in the ring and doing things, like how there was that unpredictably about him, but you mentioned it too, his ability to wrestle and kind of make things feel more impactful. From like you could see his smarts, his ability and his knowledge going at that pace and being able to handle a lot of things. I think that is something that's really undertoned about him, and hearing about how the Sheik trained both him and Rob, and like just the foundational aspect of the wrestling aspect of it all, and like trying to pin somebody, literally trying to do all that stuff. Like Sabu had it all, and it's yeah, and it speaks to the news outlets giving him the proper praise, and I just want pro wrestling to do that too, and I wish they did it even more when he was still with us.
I completely agree, and I'm sure there'll be more tributes and things coming out over the course of the week. We will very delicately switch gears to Backlash. All due respect to Blue Chew, even though I think Sabu would have popped if we transitioned from talking about his passing to Blue Chew, but we're gonna take the high road today. So Dom,
Yeah.
Backlash was this past Saturday. I thought going in, we knew what the card was going to be, and this was going to be sort of a storyline driven show. The first three matches all elicited well earned "This is awesome" chance.
I agree. Yeah. I thought the opener was good. I really enjoyed Lyra Valkyrie and Becky Lynch. And yeah, everything, the whole aspect of that first part of the show, I really enjoyed, Robert. I thought it was really well executed. Yeah. And then we get to Gunther and Pat McAfee. What did you think of that one?
Oh, we're jumping straight to number 4. Okay.
Yeah, let's do that
Uh,
one first.
I was all ready to be nice and
I know.
positive about
I know.
Backlash. Misguided
Hmm.
is the feeling that I had. I felt like we all kind of had not to fantasy book, but everyone sort of had an idea in their mind of the purpose of this match. So obviously at WrestleMania, you not only beat Gunther, you have Gunther tap out. You needed a guy who was going to be angry, who was going to be enraged, who was going to be recapturing his moment, his momentum. So feeding a guy like Pat McAfee to him, who is beloved by the audience, made a lot of sense. Watching Gunther just destroy this guy, murder this guy, leave him broken, was going to reestablish Gunther as, the ring general. Instead, we got a match where I thought Gunther was probably overly generous in terms of the moves that he gave to Pat, the amount of time he allowed Pat to come back, the significant amount of interference from Michael Cole.
Yeah, yeah,
And
right.
then after the match, the nod, the like respect, are they teasing that we're going to transition Gunther into a baby face?
Yeah. Because I mean, that's the only thing I could think that would make this all make a little bit more sense because you had this opportunity to make Gunther just look like this aggressive world beater, even more so, and just really hammer home the point that he will destroy anybody and will destroy your favorite person if that's Pat McAfee. And like, there was a lot of offense that Pat gave, and then a lot of hope spots that really was, I think, overdone for what we were expecting. And yeah, it puts Gunther in a tough position because this was a he's the one we're going to be seeing in the ring more than Pat, and like you want to carry that forward and carry a story forward, but maybe I mean the story they are going is they're going to turn him face, but that's the only thing that would make me think, okay, I can kind of see what they were doing with this maybe a little bit, but yeah, I don't. It seemed like a lot of offense for Pat McAfee.
It was a lot of offense for Pat McAfee. It was a lot of reverence and respect. The fact that Pat was even standing after the match
Yes.
was a surprise to me, unless they just feel like, hey, Pat's still going to be on commentary. We just can't murder him. I know a lot of people were fantasy booking Goldberg was going to appear in this match and he was going to challenge Gunther and we were going to get there. We'll see. It is possible that they're looking at long-term down the road strategy and the idea that we are inevitably going to get a Seth Rollins world title run
Yeah. Mhm.
and you need challengers for Seth. There's Punk, but Punk is not exactly a week in, week out, day in, day out kind of performer for them. He's a little bit of a special attraction at this point, as he rightfully should be. So maybe the idea is a babyface Gunther going after Seth becomes this worthy challenger, trying to take down this new dangerous alliance.
Yeah, and that I could buy into that. It'd be interesting to see Gunther as a face and how they would handle him in certain ways. But overall, it's yeah, I just think there's more fruit on the vine when it comes to Gunther as this dominant world beater heel that gets elicits a lot of heat. And
I agree, but your world title and your intercontinental title are both with heels. I don't quite know. You also had that little moment at the end of John Cena saying that he needs challengers.
mhm,
The thing about the WWE right now with Hunter that is it makes it kind of fun, kind of interesting is they don't do a lot of foot faults. They don't
mhm.
make a lot of unforced errors. So I feel like they would not have booked this match the way that they did with Pat and Gunther if they didn't have a plan.
Sure, yeah. Mhm.
Easy money would have been he destroys Pat, destroys Pat, destroys Pat. You get the one hope spot, then he finishes him off for good, taunts him in front of Cole. Cole, holding the broken body of Gunther, like Lois Lane holding Superman's dead body on Superman 75, and that is the most obscure reference you're going to get today,
Absolutely.
day and date of the issue. But they didn't do that, so now it's kind of like, well, it is intriguing.
There could have been a lot, like, I mean, if you really wanted to get Gunther over, what I kept thinking is, like, the way to do it is, like, yeah, Pat McAfee said he wouldn't tap, So Gunther should put himself in a position, and Pat literally in a position where he forces Pat to tap, and not a pass out submission, but he taps out. And that would really get the point home that, oh my God, Gunther is
You
somebody
do
to
have
watch.
to worry about, so the challenge they do run into is like the Pat McAfee brand
Sure.
beyond just in the ring is very, very valuable. And there is a sector of Pat McAfee fandom that is, I don't want to say problematic,
Hmm.
as I'm friends with Pat and love Pat, but there are some alpha bro style guys that would probably have an issue if Pat McAfee was, quitting and crying, as opposed to he passed out and the referee needed to call it.
Sure. Yeah, I could kind of see some of that too. But I think that's something he's pretty Teflon, I think, too, overall. So,
He is to some degree.
mhm.
I think throughout the early portion of the show, from a narrative standpoint, again, Nostradamus 2 months in a row,
Yeah.
calling beat for beat, moment for moment, what was ultimately going to happen, and then seeing it, and then having to act a little surprised.
Oh. Well, Robert, I mean, yeah, you basically did lay it out. The only exception was the Jeff Cobb thing coming at the end.
No, I think maybe I talked about it on Working Stiff, and that may have been where I said it.
Oh,
It felt like there was going to be, if there was going to be an instance, because it was a no DQ match, that you could integrate Jeff Cobb into it. So I
oh,
think that the Fatal 4-Way match, LA Knight, Damian Priest, Drew McIntyre challenging Jacob Fatu for the U.S. title. When you have a Fatal 4-Way match, it means no disqualification, no countouts. You can play with the rules a little bit. I liked the idea of Priest and Drew being outside the ring, tearing each other apart. And then in the ring, it opened the door for Solo's going to interfere, even though Fatu is like, I don't need you. And then bringing in a Jeff Cobb, and the look of confusion on Fatu's face, different than the look of confusion on a lot of the folks in St. Louis who are wondering why Rhino was on both companies in 1 week.
dude, you want to talk about it? Yeah, I was like, my God, he looks a lot like
Dude,
Rhino.
Rhino was trending on Twitter, on X or whatever, during this match.
Very much Rhino. Yeah, I did like the finish of this. I thought the tension, that just the visual tension of Fatu and Cobb staring at one another, things like that, it set the table up pretty well for what's to come with hey, what we're gonna get from Fatu, and this thing with Solo and Jeff Cobb as well. I liked it, Robert.
I think Cobb. This is a good way to bring Cobb in and make him matter almost immediately. It's the same thing they did with Tama Tonga and Tongaloa. The
Mhm.
the challenge they ran into is Tongaloa, not great in the ring in the moments that he was given, and then out injured.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
Tama Tonga seems somewhat lesser than, because he was sort of the guy always catching the pins.
Yeah, he was like the hyena of the Lion King.
Yes, exactly. That's always been the analogy I've used. And then now you have Solo, who's been the one who's been taking the pin, so he gets desperate and brings somebody in from the outside. I think a lot of us ideally are hoping this leads to Bronson Reed joining this group. I think that
Oh,
would be a
yeah.
lot of fun to put him into that spot, because eventually they are going to have to let Jacob Fatu out on his own.
Oh,
He's
100%.
so over as a baby face that there's nothing they can do.
Yes. Yeah, it's a positive, trouble to have, if you
It
may
is
ask.
it is a positive trouble to have. I just wanted to know why Jeff Cobb was so wet.
Mhm. Yes. Why was he wet?
Because in New Japan, you're not allowed to use towels. I
Is
think
that what it is?
that's the rule.
Mm.
It's damp. But next match was
Yes, Becky Lynch, Lyra Valkyria. Uh, this was it's probably my match of the night, I think, Robert. I liked it that much. I thought they did a good job. Becky, great as a heel. A lot of false finishes, which I'm not that big into, but overall, I like this match, and the intensity that Lyra Valkyria had, along with Becky Lynch.
second month in a row where a women's match stole the weekend,
Hmm.
and this did such a great job of continuing to elevate Lyra Valkyria. Like that, this is high fives all around for the
Hmm.
WWE. They have to be ecstatic. Lyra's promos during Raw over the last few weeks seem to resonate. She's been able to show a little bit more personality. and her and Becky had a back and forth match where by the end, that crowd wanted Lyra Valkyria to win. And
Yeah.
when you can make that kind of shift and you can make that kind of change and win over the hearts and minds of that crowd, I mean, buddy, that is where wrestling is at its finest. No
Yes.
Bailey, but that's okay. Becky kept, getting caught quickly. She's still got somewhere to come back with. There's other folks who can challenge Lyra, and the number of people, Wrestling on Haven comments in here, who were amazed at seeing Lyra Valkyria's husband.
Yes. Fiance.
Or fiance, sorry. As I called him on X, he was Timu Kailamuni.
Wait, Kyle Mooney, who is that? Please.
Kyle Mooney from Saturday Night Live.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yes. It's people were literally going, him? That guy?
If you see him though, I've seen his Instagram. He is in shape.
No one's questioning that he's not in shape. You just look at that dude and you're like, ooh. There was a thing from I think it was the Tonight Show where John Krasinski was talking about he was going to a studio to go visit his wife, and the security guy goes in, and who's your wife? He's like, Emily Blunt. He goes, you're married to Emily Blunt? You? That was what that kind of felt like here. See, when it's a woman, it's horrible shaming. You're like, wait, that guy's married to her? Ugh. When it's a guy, it's always funny.
It is pretty funny.
That is the beauty of the strange. It's like one of the few times in the uncomfortableness of sexism works in everybody's favor, where it's like the Peter Griffin and Lois thing, or the Homer and Marge, or the going all the way back to the honeymooners. You're like, wait, that guy's with that woman? He outkicked his coverage. But I think Lyra outkicked her coverage in terms of crowd reaction. She looked great. I have not checked injury updates on Lyra's nose or how Drew was, because there were some reports that he may have banged his head. Haven't dug in on any of that, but I guess we will see. And what we saw was Dominic Mysterio retained. Who saw it coming? El Grande Americano.
Hey.
Check the tape, guys.
Yeah,
check the VHS recording from Friday's episode of Rumor and Innuendo. You would have been good to go.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, this was fun. And yeah, I mean, it sets it up for what you did. Do you like this thing that they're doing here with Chad Gable, Grande Americano, and then Penta, or is this veering him off into something that doesn't feel as impactful?
See, now you're using pronouns. Jim Ross is going to get angry. I don't know who him is. Who's he?
Penta.
That was, I don't know what that voice was. That wasn't my normal Jim Ross voice. That was
No.
odd.
Who's
Yeah, suddenly it was like just an old prospector in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cat Sharned, I don't know who he is. Anyway, no, I think this is a good story for Penta to go after El Grande Americana, because at the end of the day, Penta versus whoever is under that mask is a barn burner of a match. And Dom retaining, despite the fact that Judgment Day bungled some of it and Finn seemed a little slow on the uptick to go try to provide some assistance. There was that Easter egg last week where Finn was talking to Roxanne Perez in the back. So you're like, oh, what's going on here? Dom is another guy who I hope they resist the urge to turn him babyface. I just think he's a dude that we like to boo, but we'll see. Someone people liked to boo for the better part of 25 years was John Cena.
Yes. And yes, we had the main event, and John Cena retained his WWE Championship against Randy Orton with a little help from R-Truth. And a lot of RKOs going down here. A lot of RKOs. I was surprised that the crowd was still kind of cheering for Cena at the same time. You're in the St. Louis.
There were some. I think the majority of people were cheering for Randy.
Sure.
The fact of the matter is, John Cena and Randy Orton have been feuding for about 25 years, and in those 25 years, they have not had a lot of mat classics.
Yeah,
they have had a lot of matches. They have not had a lot of great matches. They're usually matches that involve a lot of Zabata, a lot of Gaga, a lot of BS, a lot of nonsense. This was no exception, and that's okay. That this was the last time. There was an epicness to their first lockup. They were taking this moment of, hey, this is the last time we're going to get these guys. We knew John Cena was retaining. We knew Cody ain't showing up here. That makes no sense. Even though there were a lot of weekly ads, going on during this match. But you had ref bumps, you had a lot of AAs, you had a lot of RKOs, you had a lot of outside stuff. Orton RKOing everyone under the sun, including Nick Aldis for the second time, means, hey, we're going to get something there, which is going to be pretty. That should be pretty good. John retaining because of R-Truth. I like that they gave a payoff to this R-Truth gag for the last few years, but as I was explaining to the group, I said it kind of feels like with Marvel, where they're paying off something from a Marvel TV show from like 7 years ago. There's a difference between, what happened in Endgame was because what happened in Infinity War versus, remember in Falcon and the Winter Soldier episode 3, there was that post-credit scene. Now we're paying it off on a main event. Like, you're like, wait, what? It's a great Saturday night's main event match, Tom.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, but yeah, it felt a little out of place considering that R-Truth has been comedic relief for this whole time, and then we've had, obviously that bit been going on forever, and that's the payoff to your big main event match you have post WrestleMania. It felt a little out of place, and I know during the press conference, Cena gave R-Truth an attitude adjustment through the table and all that stuff. So, yeah. Where are you going next here with John? What's the next step here for you, Mr. Robert?
I think it's going to be Truth. I think the Saturday night's main event, we know they're doing Jey Uso and Logan Paul. They've already announced that. I would imagine some combination of CM Punk and Sami Zayn versus Seth and Braun Breaker. Really strong match right there. The third would probably be John Cena versus R-Truth.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's a way to use the Cena date, get him on a Saturday night's main event. Like that is, like I said, that's the kind of tailor-made feud that is what Saturday night's main events are for.
How about that?
So, we'll see. I think John's saying he needs more challengers. Something I had floated to with Scott Chaplin that I'll just kind of leave it here and then we'll wrap it up is I want Cody to win the Money in the Bank. I want him to have that briefcase because we know John Cena has a finite amount of dates left. And I want Cody's narrative to be, yeah, you've got a ticking clock, but I control when I cash this in. And I will cash this in on you during one of those dates, and you're not going to know the date. So every time that you show up, every match, every promo, every town that you make, I may be there with the sole goal of taking this title back. And I like reversing the tension a little bit and letting it be on John that, yeah, he thinks he's got the countdown till he leaves, and you never know when Cody's going to pop up.
I like it, Robert. I like it. I think you're in the booking room and you're just not telling anybody.
Kayfabe, brother. Kayfabe. No, I'm not. They'll have that reality show. I won't be there.
I know Robert's going to be in every shot.
No, I'm way too tan to look like one of the guys sitting in the writers' rooms. But I will be here with Dominic D'Angelo every Monday through Friday at noon Eastern on a plethora of platforms, including the WWE Creative _ISH X account, the @Dominic D'Angelo X account, the @SE Scoops X account, and on YouTube on Rumor and Innuendo, ad-free shows, and Working Stiff. So on behalf of Dominic D'Angelo, that's all we need. That's all you need. You don't need any gimmicks. No gimmick needed, Dominic D'Angelo. I'm Robert Karpolis. Best of luck in your future endeavors.
R.I.P. Sabu.